Hey everyone, we are here for an extremely important episode. I've been needing to make this episode for probably 3 years now, and it just really, I don't know if we had the right guest or I don't know what it is, but we have Lillian Bennett on today, and Lillian is here to talk with us about well, really, I'm wanting to look at several topics as far as bodies and look
Yeah.
at how fat activism thinks about these topics versus astrological body types. So, kind of looking into body type, weight, all these topics I have, and just really trying to get like a fat activist lens for astrologers, but also then look at how the astrologers see things similarly and differently to the fat activists. So tell us, what is your relationship with bodies and fatness and thinness and what do you got going on there?
Yeah. I was incarnated, 58 years ago. So I've been stuck in this body this whole time. I was a scrawny kid, and my sisters and I would do acrobatics and do clown stuff. And I often say we were raised like pretty tight with women. So there weren't a lot of men around. So I didn't understand men at all. And then how I feel now, like I think I got pregnant. I didn't carry to full term, but once a human female body gets pregnant, there's a
Mm,
whole host of things that change. And I observed those and lived through those. Um, I've been heavy, I've been thin, I've been athletic, I've been not. Um, what is the other thing? Oh, I had a great conversation with my hairstylist this weekend. I was saying to her, oh, I better watch out. My hair's thinning or my hair's receding. And she went, your hair is not receding. It will never recede. It's not going to recede. And it made me laugh. We both told the same story about being told we needed to have our noses fixed when we got older, when we were kids, and thought we'd have to have nose surgery because to make it look better. And
mm.
then when we became adults, we're both like, that, no, that's not true. So that's the long way around the corral. I'm in a body, I live in it, I observe it, I see what other folks say, I see how I feel in it.
Mhm. So you've been thin, you've been thick, you've been the whole gamut of body typology.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah.
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 Well, you make me think of the ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus, who talks about how there's things we can control and things we can't control. And this brings up the serenity prayer too, of like God grant us the serenity to
Hmm.
accept the things we cannot change, right? Well, Epictetus would say that anything we can't control, like the shape of our nose or something, should not be judged as good or bad. So that will make us sad. So if we said, I wish my ear looked different, or I mean, we can kind of
Yeah.
control our nose shape with surgeries and stuff, but like really like from a fated perspective, if there's something about our body that it's just growing that way, even if it's a big wart or something, well, I guess a wart you could get removed, but let's say you had a hunchback or something, you're not really
Yeah.
supposed to judge it as good or bad because it's out of your control. And what do you think of that?
I love that. I love that you brought up Epictetus. I do feel that way. And I also wanted to know what you thought. That's why I started with incarnation about like, what's the difference between a chart for somebody who didn't get born and somebody who did get born? What's the line
Hmm.
of incarnation? And I've heard Melanie Reinhart talk about that, the cross of incarnation that she thinks is the ascendant to descendant and the midheaven to the IC, and that we kind of hang on that. Isn't that fascinating?
Well, gosh, to speak to that question, because what a good question, and rarely do people ask me questions here on here. But I would say that some people say that the soul incarnates into a body to be able to experience the human experience, which is the soul senses machine, human apparatus, which is the chakra interface and all this stuff. Like when the soul's in a body, it can feel things, including that it is too heavy. That is one feeling that the body can have. It can also
Mm-hmm.
think I'm too lanky or my bones are too porous or can think all kinds of things. But I
Wow.
think perhaps that's part of the joy of incarnation is even being weighed down by our meat suit could be seen as a joy because it's one of the joys of being in here in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think of that. I think, if I were to give myself license to use my imagination to just say, why come down here like this? You know, when in the culture that I'm currently in, it'd be best if I was blonde, 5'7", 120 pounds, big blue eyes, really pale skin. And I'm not any of those. And believe me, I get told I'm not those. And so does anyone else who isn't that down here. And I think to myself, okay, if I was a spirit wanting to incarnate, well, if I'm bigger, I can do whatever a guy does. Not true, but you know what I mean? That
Yeah.
impression is there. And if I'm bigger, I can protect myself. And if I'm heavier, like gushier, I've heard God talks to us through our bones, and then emotions get stuck in our chub. So I would almost say like, oh, I've got some like heavier emotional weight. Isn't that, a curiosity? So I love how in what you're saying and in what I'm saying, it's an exploration and not a sentence.
Wow. Well, geez, so I just have to speak to that. I was thinking about this. Like, I'm getting try. I'll show you my belly. I'll show you my belly at
Oh
this
yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool, cool,
incarnation.
cool.
So I
Yeah,
got some water weight. See that? Well,
yeah,
I'm a super water chart. I have like 6 planets in water, right? And I'm a Gemini rising, so I'm actually very thin. Like my arms are really thin and lithe, and I have
yeah,
piano fingers, and so do you. But the thing
yeah.
is if I didn't have a chubby water body, my chart wouldn't be true, actually. Like if you look at water charts, they have this water layer. But when you're saying emotion gets carried in that chub, I I am so emotional. Like for example, if you were to have been like 5 minutes late today, I would have been like, "Where's Lillian? I miss Lillian. I'm supposed to see Lillian." Like my heart breaks at the silliest things, and I eating helps me to process emotions. Some people call it emotional eating, but I actually think I have more emotions than charts that are lanky and airy, right? Like so, but the fact that then my chub carries emotions, it's like it gives and takes emotionalism, and food and chub help that happen. So I really want to, because I think that the thin people, the thin activists, like the medical side of things, would say that this chub is bad. It's just going to cause a heart attack and all this kind of stuff. But what you're saying is it actually has a function.
I do believe that. And I would also say there are studies that show, and I apologize for not getting them, but I'll look up the stuff when I rewatch, that if you've got a little bit more chub, you heal faster from surgeries. It can show, obviously, if you get into a famine situation, that you might live longer than the people who don't have a little extra chub. I think there are a myriad of things we don't see. And I also think, I don't know how to say it. Like there are when I think of my body and a body, I think the ideal situation is one where you're nurtured and encouraged to grow, and that includes physicality. In my world, physicality would have included violence, so I couldn't
Mm,
choose that
mm,
to some extent, right? And then to a larger extent, I also have a really intense water chart, so it's so porous. And I also love musicians and rock and roll and punk rock. And I would have been sucked up into that life, I feel, and tossed out. So in a way, I do feel like it was a defense because again, folks would look me over, right? And make assumptions. And so in a way, I added that into my calculations. And I went, folks who make those assumptions, I need them out of here because I don't want to hear it. Not because I'm not healthy. Like, I'll give you an example of attempting to be thin when let's just lay the record plain. My ascendant, Jupiter's trining my Venus in the first house. If you go by Porphyry, I'm big, right? And Jupiter's beaming down onto my sun and my Venus.
mm.
And so here I am. So I've tried 8 months of really intense working out with food at like 1,200 calories. And that worked until I stopped. And then I've tried the grief diet. I don't know. I think most people get that where some horrible thing happens and you're eating as much as you can to live because you're kind of going through all of that. And right now I'm actually on that Wegovy stuff because I don't think that fat is a dilemma if you are aware of your physicality. So I do Feldenkrais twice a month. where I am using awareness through motion. And this is a physical technique to, like, for example, my workout at 58 is I get down on the ground and get up 5 times. And I pretend I have a weight 5 times, and then I grab a weight 5 times. Why? Because older people fall. So to me, the only time that weight becomes an issue is as I get older, I'll want less physicality to pull along with me. But I don't think it makes you unhealthy. I think being ignorant of your body makes you unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that it means anything about moving less. I think people get grossed out by fat. And I used to make a joke, if I'm next to you on the plane, you've got a sofa you're sitting next to, cuddle in. You know what I mean? Like, don't freak out, And I've definitely spent a lot of time on planes like, I'm so sorry. I know I'm fat. That's terrible. But I don't feel that. I don't feel that at all. I feel like it's very nurturing and necessary. And I think if we have a balance of understanding, excuse me, emotionality versus that really intense Mars activity that we get to have too,
Mm-hmm.
we'd go a lot longer,
I,
further along.
can I talk about your chart?
I love it.
Okay, because you're a Scorpio. You have a Scorpio moon. No, Cancer moon and Scorpio rising, right?
That's
So
right.
so you're double water. You're a Sag sun, but you have double water. Okay, so you do have a water body. Let's actually look in astrological body type
Yeah,
at
I'd
the
love that.
water body because okay, here's the picture of the water body. See how round it is compared
Hold on a
to
second. Here's
this.
the water body.
Oh my God, you got one too. Oh my God. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is by Judith Hill versus the
Oh, I
Earth
love.
body, which is kind of more.
Yeah.
So get this book by Astrological Body Type. It's like the
Love
best
it.
book ever. And then
Love
the
it.
air people are super lanky. Here's all the body types. So here's the air people, really lanky. You and I are water types. So I'm a mix of air and water, right? So I'm like
Hmm.
kind of lanky with a water. But the fire bodies look like this, and so anyway, the thing is you look exactly as you should according to your chart.
Exactly. Right.
And you wouldn't be able to do the functions of your chart without all that those roles because you're supposed to be emotional and loving and all these kind of stuff. I find the auras of water people to be really interesting. Now I'm a Pisces moon, so I can feel auras, and it's like I don't see them, but I feel them. And water people send out a lot of plasma in the aura. Their auras are actually quite complex for me to deal with because like I'll be feeling all this energy come off their chest. I'm like trying to ignore it, and like I'm just like I'm not trying to look at your boobs, but you're sending all this water around.
Yeah.
So I find the auras to be quite interesting of water people. And I think having all that chub, of that certain kind of chub, it carries that emotional plasma. It's auric plasma. Um,
Yeah.
Look, I have my Doctor Strange shirt on because I feel
I
like we
love
are
that.
being doctors today. We are healing people emotionally.
100%. 100%. Which is as important as getting a colonoscopy, right? I mean, I think of emotions as like poop. Digesting is a great way to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
And some people digest emotion, it hits our body, and then we have to go do the next thing. I don't know who this frog is in my throat, but
Well,
he's
I have
making
to
me
tell you what
laugh.
makes me move slow when I'm swimming. It's not the weight on my body, it's when I'm emotional about something. Like I'll be processing something in the studio or something, and I'll be swimming a lot slower because I'm processing. It's really interesting.
Yes,
What
and
happened to
doing
you?
stuff. I love it. Yeah, and I actually have stuff built in, like the forms that I use that like I make a note about my day has something where I do the same thing like a calendar and I don't have to do it, but if my body needs to slow down to like make those numbers, that's part of digestion that I can allow to have happen. And I think that's a big part of it too. And then here's the question, like I'm so curious, what kind of world would we need for those types of bodies to succeed and enjoy themselves? What are the stomping grounds of these four types and the micro types
Mm.
and all of that?
Interesting. You keep asking me questions, but I have questions I want to ask you. Before we get to that
Oh
one,
yeah,
I
yeah,
want to
yeah.
ask you one. How much have you enjoyed life being thin versus enjoyed life being thick? And then my second
Yeah.
question is, how has the changing of your weight affected your marriage at all, if at all?
Yeah. Great questions. I love these questions. So, for the longest time, I had a hard time being thin, and it's because of the trauma I had as a kid. And so I thought I would repeat that trauma. I mean, I got sexually molested, and I thought it was because I was like some super sexy kid. And then, like, draw yourself as an 11-year-old, and you're like, sorry, let's take you to school. Anyway, it took a long time, right? Because I would lose weight and the curves would stay, and people would come up and be like, wow, you're really sexy. And I'd be like, that's not the point. That's not the point. And I finally saw photos of myself in a spiritual practice. I used to do the turn, the Mevlevi turn, whirling dervish,
Mm.
with a lot of folks from Turkey. And I actually got to turn in Turkey. And I didn't realize it, but other people had taken photos of me and they had sent them to me. And I finally got the part where I could see them. And I was like thin, right? I was doing all this stuff with the body. And I was like, you know what? If I can do that, I'll do it, because now I need less mass on me. But the rest of the time, what cracks me up is, I remember saying this to trainers. I've said it to my husband. I don't know what my body looks like. I've got Neptune on the ascendant. I don't
Mm.
know what's going on in there. So I say, oh my God, I'm thin again and beautiful. It's fantastic. Or I skip a meal and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like 110 pounds.
Mm.
And so I don't have a static sense of myself. And then as I've been doing this body work, which is just about somatic stuff, feeling into my body, understanding all the things that will shift and change, like, down to my sacrum has 3 degrees of rotation, right? So if I'm kicking my leg out when I sleep, I'm going to guess that's 15 degrees. So no more kicking my leg out when I sleep, kind of thing. Like, what is the old body going to need, right? I have a sense of myself as joined together in this body, which is pretty new. And I love that sense. So I would say being in a body, 2 thumbs up. And I've seen this like through nursing homes and stuff that I volunteered at. I love going to places where we may have to go. I've got enough Pisces to know that institutionalization shouldn't be anything that I'm scared of. And
Mhm.
so I go there, and like folks who had oxygen deprivation, the happiest people, right? Like folks who have lived out their lives and they're at the tail end of it, doing amazing things with their bodies. So I haven't seen, the only places where I see people get caught up is when other people are telling them about their bodies and they have an icky idea. And I love Bill Hader for this, and it's also for creativity. He says, you should listen to feedback. Feedback's good. People have feedback, but you should never listen to what they say to do about it, ever, because you're the only one who can figure that out. And so
Mm.
maybe it's just the hearing that we're supposed to deal with, that weird,
Mm.
okay.
Mm.
But marriage wise, I've always been confused because I've never, like, I've been rejected, but it's more because of, like, I totally felt that when you said the plasma
Mm.
shooting out of the body.
Mm.
Like, I didn't have a sense of boundaries. Maybe a boundary should be that I meet you in your midline. Whoops, nope. Okay, maybe I meet you further back. Maybe I don't shoot a ton of ectoplasm at you while I'm walking through a building. So those things also fed into joy in being incarnated.
So your husband doesn't care if you're thick or thin, he just whatever?
He did at the beginning, and he is fit. He's very fit and totally in shape, and rides his bike all over, and all of that good stuff. And when he met me, he said, I'm used to thinner, smaller women, and I like blondes. And I'm terrible. I was like, what a coincidence. They told you to like blondes that are thinner and smaller. Why don't you go check that out? And it's not hard to see that that's in fact the packages they want you to travel in. And so
Right.
it made him mad. But then he was like, I think he said it was how I talked to him about Pluto and Uranus. So I don't know that body stuff was going to get in his way. And
So
and we do
he's really attracted to your personality.
yeah, and he is into my body. I'm not saying, like, we're both very sexual, but there isn't a limit to it. I think that he has that same either emotional, spiritual, he has an eighth house Venus.
Hmm.
He's okay with us having this two-part connection
Hmm.
that we get to explore.
Yeah. Here, can I speak to the marriage thing a little bit?
Oh yeah, please.
Okay. So it's really interesting because so Shane, my current to be husband, has Jupiter in Cancer, and I have Jupiter in Cancer, and so our composite chart has Jupiter in Cancer, and one of the byproducts of being with him is he's a feeder, not like a feeder in the kind of erotic sense, but like he just really loves to cook with his Jupiter in Cancer, and one of the things it's his craft. It's like it would be like if I made you a piece of art and you were like, no thanks, it's like I really don't want
Yeah,
to say no thanks on his cooking because it's a beautiful thing and it helps my child and all these things, and so. I like to say, yes, thank you for this food and just eat it. And so, and we love to go out to eat. And just one of the behavioral byproducts of being with him is that I have gotten a bigger belly. Probably gained like 20 or 30 pounds, but he actually likes bigger girls. I mean, like that's just his aesthetic too. And so to
yeah.
be happy in this marriage, I have to kind of look in some ways like this version of myself.
Mm,
But then it comes down to, as an artist on camera all the time is like, what does the crowd think? And it's like, so I've had to take it to the artistic realm of talking about my belly and being like, kind of making it an arty thing of just like, well, if you put mirrors all over yourself and you have a belly, then there's more mirrors. And like just kind of being, and being a clown, like Stardoll the clown has a belly. And
I
like, when I
love
make a
that.
Stardoll puppet, it's going to have a belly. And iconizing that look, I think is being arty and processing some of it through art can I think really help but see how in my marriage I have to in some ways accept this bigger body in order to make please my partner just activities wise. I mean, so
I
it's
get it.
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. My husband, Saturn in Cancer, and it's opposed by his moon in Capricorn. And one of the sweeter things we found is if we let him cook, he's doing great. And it's the same kind of thing. He's aware that I, don't need. I think my previous partner would make like bakery trays full of eclairs, and I think when we broke up, he was doing wedding cakes, so we were having 20-pound cakes in the house per
Oh my God.
um, right? So I get that. I think there's something like being in a nourishing house, and we are householders, and he is the one that is kind of bringing up that yummy food portion. I don't want to serve people like I do in the Virgo sense of I'd rather get things organized so that things go smoothly and then fix them after so that they go smoothly again. But I'm not like, he jokes that when we get ready for a party, one big part of it is sending me away before the people come. So I don't have to do anything anymore. And I just kind of show up after. So I'm that far from food,
Mhm.
understanding it in that way. So yeah, so let's talk about, bodies and starving or bodies and, disaster. Yeah.
Okay, that actually kind of ties into my first question, comparing fat activism versus astrology, which
Oh
is
yeah.
there's the no lose movement that says you shouldn't. Fat activists say like don't try to lose weight, no lose. And then I don't know what the astrologers say, but let's talk about first about your question
Yeah.
about starving, because that's about, I think the no lose movement would say that starving yourself is not good. Yeah. But anyway, so you're talking about in like fat people in famine.
Yeah, that's all. I was trying to draw, we've got these cozy lives right now, right? But like throw a rock and somebody's out in the street and they're super hungry. How's their body doing? You know what I mean? Like the kind of adversarial conditions the body can go through. Come on, they're intense, right? So kind of any way you show up is a good way. But I want to speak to that no lose and fat activism. So I did this show called Fat You for a friend of mine who had a miniature art museum. So I did little pieces, and it turned out to be a tarot deck, 10 pieces of a tarot deck. And it was also called Shut the Fat Up. And it was about how when people see me and they haven't seen me for a long time, whether I go up or down, they want to talk about my weight. And I'm like, it's it, it's actually private now. Y'all tried and nothing made sense. So that's my property now. However, what I felt about it, no lose. I went through cancer treatment and then had intense weight loss stuff going on at the same time, and went to a doctor friend of mine, and they were like, under no condition do I want you to worry about losing weight while you're recovering from cancer. Do you know what I mean? And one of the weird times somebody said something to me was, and I know they didn't mean it, but it was after I had been in treatment and I had lost weight, and they went, "You look great." And I'm like, I remember that during the AIDS crisis where people would say, "Oh, you've got AIDS, but you've lost weight." And like, just so disconnected from tragedy and trauma and emotional impact, right? So I made the decision for 2 years that I just wasn't going to worry about dieting. I wasn't going to take on board what people had to say. I wasn't going to worry about it. But because I, grew up into a heavier body, I've also grown up into full organic, right? Full fat, no fat, no carbs, any of the kind of weird, I want to say they're like test your power machines that we put ourselves up against in the diet world. Let's see how strong you are. Can you live through this one? Can you live through this one? And like throwing up in garbage cans because I'm working out and trying not to get freaked out about it. I just feel like for me, if my chart had been dealt with regard to the sexual energy of that was coming at me and what I was putting out, and like helped me understand those boundaries, maybe my body wouldn't have been an issue. And I do agree that if you are naturally the size that your body should be, and I saw a really cool x-ray that blows my mind as a big person. I thought I was big boned, and then I saw my hips are the size of a thin person, and then here's all the chubba, and I was like, wow, that really tells the story, doesn't it?
Mm.
Like, I'm not a Clydesdale, there's a limit to what my joints can take. So that little packet is like, I've studied nutrition, I've studied vitamins, I've studied how people interact with food. I know I have a disorganized attachment to food where sometimes I'll eat it like, oh God, when I was editing remediations, and it could be a 2-pint Ben and Jerry's night because I just wanted enough sugar in my brain to like keep me focused. But then, come to find out that like that's 8 hours of good work and then 2 weeks of whatever my body would have to do to get all that sugar out. So I guess I would say, for whichever side people are on, I love how you say there's nothing static. You go around. And so I feel like that's the body stuff, and female bodies really show that with a pregnancy and not pregnancy versus like, I bet you Shane hasn't had to buy new clothes because he's changed size.
Mm.
Whereas I do that all the time. My
Mm.
husband has clothes from when he was 18, and he's in his 50s.
Yeah.
And me, I'm like, woo, woo, woo. So there's something to that lack of stillness around bodies. And
Mm.
then not making the assumption that there isn't more information there. And then I don't know what to say. Like, right now we're celebrating so hard what we love individually, and so there's room for people to say, I love really fat people, and I love it for this reason and that reason, like it's a bouquet or a piece of cake that they're going to eat. But true love is, I love you, I want you around.
Mm.
Is this an obstacle or no? Can we still go have fun or no?
Mhm. I love what you
And
bring up
offering
about
that
the
nurture.
fluctuating nature of some bodies. I mean, I think, Saturn went over my moon recently, and I got hypnotized for weight loss because Saturn was on my moon. I wanted to learn how to restrict my diet, and I lost 30 pounds, and I was like, oh, I see how to do this. I learned how to do it, but now Jupiter and Cancer just went over my Jupiter and Cancer. I was like, whatever, I'm eating now. I feel like eating now, and like, the astrologers understand this, that we are cyclical, fluctuating humans, whereas the linear diet people are just like, you need a diet and then keep it off forever. But the astrologers understand why that doesn't happen. We grow, we contract, we grow. Jupiter grows us, Saturn contracts us. And so actually, I think astrologers win on the
I think
side
so.
of fluctuating humanness, especially in water bodies. Like maybe your husband is a more fire body or whatever he is that makes him fiery or muscular.
Mars on the sun.
Oh, Mars Sun conjunction. Okay, so yeah, um yeah, so I think some charts fluctuate more than others, but that could be
Right.
said that that plant that is a fluctuating plant, and that's part of what's beautiful about it. Is she thin? Is she big? Is she thin? Is she big? Is kind of a very interesting journey. Um, and then I want to speak to the famine and illness part of this. So I had a surgery, I almost died once, and I was so thin after that surgery. I laid around not eating for, 40 days really, and I looked like terrible. I mean, part of why I stay chubby now is because I looked so bad at that level of thinness. Like, I looked waifish. I looked waifish. The heroin chic people would have been like, you look great right now. But like when my belly gets thin, my jowls get thin. I look gaunt. And I think there's a certain body type where if you don't have enough weight, your face doesn't look good. You
I
know,
agree. Yeah,
like your
I
face
agree.
looks great, whatever way. I mean, I think you look great. Like I don't think
Thank you.
thin is
Me
beautiful. I
too.
think I like people of all shapes personally, but
Mhm. Same. Same. I like them all. And to go to the famine part, it's just I do like to break up that idea of like, boy, if we were perfect, we'd all be sitting quietly next to each other or in front of each other, gently vibing. You know what I mean? No, that's not this world, right? And so there are people who are starving. There are people who are running for their lives. There are things going on. And then you think about the body and it's like, wow, what you want to be equipped with resilience. You want to be equipped with enough rest. You want to be equipped with an understanding of how all the parts go together. But the fat or not fat doesn't really come into play, right? And I was also bringing it up because in cultures where you couldn't get food as reliably, heavier people were cherished because it was a sign that we could be good to each other, and we could nourish each other. So, but it's also interesting because as a person, a water body, I would go out with my husband. We've been together 25 years, and I would try stuff, and he'd go, "You have no sense of your limitations whatsoever," right? I'm talking about all that water and the Neptune. And so he would take me, there was a mountain peak called Patty Go Easy out in Roslyn in Washington State. And he'd take me there and we'd be like, Patty does not go easy, because the whole way down I'd just be like, this is terrible, I hate this. But like I would try everything, and I love to try everything. I love to try it now. That's why the workout of getting up and down off the floor is making me laugh so hard, because I am at that age where our relationship to the ground changes. We're not kids, and so we're not scrambling around.
yeah.
And when I had to ball up my fist and get on the ground, I was like, how do I do that again?
Well, I think it's so interesting that these fiery people, they always measure health against can we be physical? But I'm like, what if we measured health against whether or not you can play the piano? Because all
Oh,
you physical
beautiful.
people, it's like you're not healthy because you can't play the piano. Your
I get that.
emotional self hasn't had a workout today. And it's like you play the piano, you're a water
I
body, and
do.
it's like that thing
Yeah.
is a huge amp. When my emotions are all out of whack and I play the piano, it's like, to me, that is a workout. Like yesterday, I had to work on my art piece beading because I was so overstim
Yeah.
emotionally. I thought, should I go on a walk to the park? I'm like, I have to bead. Like the Native
Create.
Americans say, like beading is the medicine. And I was like, after an hour of that, like my emotions were back in whack. But it's like, I think these people who don't have this water issue don't have to do the art, right? Whereas we have to do the art.
Interesting. I love
And
that.
maybe
I love
like
that.
I'll run miles of crochet thread and I'm like, you don't
Yeah.
run miles of crochet thread. You're not very healthy today.
I love that because you're right. Like I have to go look at cerulean blue, right? And like I have wallpaper samples from all these different eras, and I am physically like doing a thing when I'm getting my art set up, and even I've been setting up my art studio for a couple of years. And it's because it's that interwoven and that layered of a machine that I want to be the one to get into and like, tup, 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 tup. And I agree with you that that physicality is really important. I'll toss you another one, especially around the emotional body. There's this stuff, family counseling. Do you know about that stuff? There's a
Yeah.
guy,
Anyway.
yeah, so it where you're dramatizing your relationships in order to learn new things about family obstacles potentially. And there's this guy from Austria who came to do the thing, and he told this beautiful story. I can't remember his name, but I bought his book about this woman who was dying, and she asked for him to come see her, and he came to her, and he realized as he was counseling with her that she had never manifested. She had never let out who she was ever.
Hmm.
And so he sat with her for 2 weeks. And after that 2 weeks of her existing and vibing and letting herself out, she was able to pass. And so I do think that, along with the Thomas Merton quote, whatever is within you, if you bring it out of you, will make you stronger. Whatever is within you that you ignore will kill you.
Mm. Oh my
Right?
God. Well, dude, when I wrote remediation, I lost like 20 pounds. Like I was like full of that book because it had come from thousands of chart readings. That I was just like full of, and when I wrote
Yeah.
it, I was just like getting it off your chest is real. I mean, I actually one time I felt this woman, all this plasma was like rolling off her chest, and she's telling me the story, and then she's like, "Thanks for letting me get out that off my chest." I was like, "That shit is literal." Like it's chi balled up in there, and if you don't get it out, it will actually disease you, kind of thing.
I think so.
Um,
So,
so
in as much as fat can look like it's some stuck chi, I get the reaction, but I think it's way different than that.
yeah, I feel like it's a cheat. I mean, this is actually so profound. Like, I hope you do a few of the episodes with me. I'm not trying to like monopolize your
Yeah, of
time,
course.
but
No, I love doing episodes with you.
okay, yeah, totally. Because we have this,
Oh,
big
yeah.
list here. So let's move on to another one, which is, so I guess for you and I about the lose no lose, we're on the side of like of weight loss doesn't
Everything.
necessarily equate to healthiness, or
I think so. Yeah, I would argue that.
yeah. And I think it really depends on what your chart looks like. You could actually inflate your chart like I sometimes like I could force feed myself to the point
Right?
where I'm bigger than my chart. That would be
Right?
like taking an aloe plant and like force feeding it so that it's like gonna bust, right? And that wouldn't be healthy, right? But if
Right.
if the aloe plant is allowed to be puffy at its natural state, then it's perfectly healthy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And the
Just like
same with the converse, right? Like if the aloe plant, it has just enough to be happy and survive. If you give it less, it will start to come apart. So we're fragile either way you slice it.
well, the ice cream example made me think of it. Like, I eat a lot right now, partially because I'm producing so much stuff that it's like if I don't eat, I can't function. Like, we're literally giving our all for this hour, and it's like if I don't have enough
A
food, I
hundred
can't
percent.
actually do that. So I think there is something about being undernourished and producing the fruits of your vine of like we are trying to produce our fruit, right?
Quality.
And without
Yes.
nourishment, we can't make a watermelon plant without enough nourishment makes a tiny little watermelon.
Right.
We're
Right.
trying to grow a
Right.
huge watermelon of astrological research, right? And it's like we have to eat,
Yeah.
well, and
Yeah.
it's similar to the lanky charts that can't gain weight. I mean, I think there's those people who get criticized for being anorexic looking, and we could equally say
Right.
that their charts are super lanky and they just cannot gain weight. And that doesn't mean they're unhealthy because they're healthy for what they're supposed to be a spindly air plant for instance.
Right. Right, right, right. No, I love that. And I think about that just with nature in general. We have so much diversity. I think there's something in that diversity that feeds us and that we want that diversity. So
Mhm.
um yeah, it's important.
That's a really good point. Like this is the astrology side wins on the human diversity,
Yes.
part of the equation. I think that activism is helping us allow the bigger water body and earth body people to thrive. But I think astrology really gets the diversity piece of it.
Right, right, right. Well, what was the one? There was one book I read called Fat is a Family Affair. and it posits that the emotional kind of scapegoat is going to gain more weight, or that the family's not dealing with whatever issues they've got, and so they're putting it on the person who is heavy. And I've seen that. I can make assessments around that. But I think another thing that I would assert is sometimes you're heavy and it's not bad. And that because it's not a linear thing, it would be more linear to say, I mean, it would be more damaging to say, always be what I've seen you as. Hey, hold on. No, this is not a linear process. It goes up and down.
That's an extremely important point because even when we look at the family dynamics layer of big or small, it's still pathologizing bigness. Like the reason that you're big is because you were sexually abused or because your family was scapegoating you. It's like the astrology layer would say you're big because you're an aloe plant
I
and you're
love that.
puffy.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
actually not problematic. It's perfect. And that's what I guess pisses me off about the medicalized and society. Even the fat activism is putting thinness as the baseline and putting
I,
fatness against it. Whereas the body types of astrology says there are four elemental baselines, and
right.
they're all viable and
And myriad, yeah, exponential numbers of variants. Like, I agree with this because I also agree that if you are disabled, that doesn't make you a broken human. I think that there are ways that we emerge, like Stephen Hawking gave us amazing theory, right? And I think it's part of civilization, the luxury of civilization, that we can say yes to that stuff.
oh yeah,
So, but
interesting.
yeah,
Oh, this is so great. Okay, let's do another topic. We'll probably
yeah.
have time for one more. What
Okay.
about attractiveness and beauty as it
Mhm.
pertains to weight?
I love that. So, having hung out with a bunch of fat folks, because we do gather in crowds, we favor heavier fabrics, looking finished rather than trying to fit a mold. It used to be when I was growing up that when I hit a certain weight, I'd have to wear purple pants with like a seam going down the front, and they felt like they were made out of plastic, that weird polyester. But now with thrift stores and all kinds of shops, you can get anything. So what I've noticed is knowing what makes you attractive is important. So whether that's been a friend of mine who found out he was a bear, right? Or uh, me finding out that I love people intellectually, sexually, right? And that the connection that I have with my husband is one of those, and that it wasn't like pairing certain body types together. So yeah, I wait. There's also that phrase, nice face, shame about the legs. Did you ever hear that?
No.
Isn't that terrible? Yeah. So it's so goofy. Like I said, to me now it falls in the category of laughing with my hairstylist that we both thought we needed to get nose jobs, right? And like I was also, just to be clear, laughing with her because I had breast cancer and they operated on my breasts. And when I came out, I was like, really? Is that the shape you think they should be? Y'all could have done like starfish or, little shark heads or something like really cool. Like y'all don't even know what I'm packing, right? And you go with like the smiley nose face. Okay, okay. I get it. But to me, it's more like, so, and one more thing about attraction from a resource. There's a book really good, The Soul of Sex. I love that book. And it talks about impersonal sex, the Vestal Virgins, where there were people who wanted to peep at the Vestal Virgins because that's all they physically wanted, or they wanted to be connected to them, or all of the various ways we connect with each other sexually. It describes, right, even spiritual union with another person, right? And so within that there are like the love of the hand or the love of the foot that people get obsessed with. So to me, if you're heavy and you feel like you're not attractive, you just haven't found the thing that
Mm,
your people are going to light up for, right?
interesting.
And then the other is, yeah, look polished.
Oh my God, I love this. So yeah, I read this costume design book, and it was talking about
Yeah.
how famous people what the trick there is they always wear something that fits them correctly. It doesn't matter if they're thin or big at all. It is the fit correctly because you can be really
Yeah.
lanky and thin and wear something that's too big and you look
Yeah.
trashy, right? But or if you're big, if you wear something too small, that looks weird, right? So I think dressing yourself correctly and tailoring your
Yeah.
clothes is part of it. Of course, there's the thing like dressing the apple body. There's ways you can study that. There's also ways to dress it, like you're saying, what makes it look polished. And then I found like A-line dresses because I carry a lot of weight like right in the belly, so I'm like an apple body, which I could covet other bodies and be like, I wish I had more fat on my hips or this or that. But I found that A-line dresses that go in to out really slenderize that belly portion because it's just a
Yeah.
trick of the eye. And so then it's like, okay, I found that the A-line dress really looks good. So now I'm just going to get a bunch of A-line dresses. So I like what you're saying about like find what makes your shape, your body actually attractive, and then get more of that in the monitor, right? And it's like instead of trying
Yeah.
to covet what another body would wear what your body wears well. And
I think
then
so.
the next thing I would say is when you're bigger, a lot of people who are thin depend on their looks to get by in life. And I think
Hmm.
the people I know who are bigger have honed their personality to the point where their personality is wonderful. And I think the bigger people I know are just awesome people, and that is really
I
what I
agree.
think is attractive about them.
Yeah, and I do love people, like it blows my mind, like the people who I think I would love the least, I end up like really learning a lot from too. So I don't ever see like a negative side of it. But you're right, like this heaviness, this ability to carry this emotion, it works for me. You know what I mean? Like I love it. And yeah, that there some people who've never been told they're beautiful, or and I do have to say, like, even skinny people, right, who are counting on being skinny and get the opposite, nice legs, shame about the face. Like, I think we're crazy about looks. And the reason why is I think when I was with somebody for 9.5 years and it ended. And after that, I was kind of making a survey. I was, am I gay or straight? All right. I seem to be still reliably bisexual. Okay. Like, are people interested in me or other people? Oh, people are interested in holy crap. All the guys were interested in everybody. You know what I mean? Like, not in a creepy way, but it was like, then it starts to get to hormones, right? And my firm belief is that because for me, sex is a physical thing, it's how I feel on each little morsel of my body that's important and not the whole package. I'm not denying whatever package society picked, like A plus, go for it. But for me, this is the package that works the best. And I don't have to think about anything else. I don't have to compare. I don't have to do anything. Although I do, like, especially after surgery for cancer, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of us with scars out there. That's so cool. What do we do for scars? Or, you
Mm.
know, multiple surgeries that aren't designed to pretty things up, but are kind of yoiking things off so that you're going to keep going. Like, oh, now what do you call it? I can't remember. What are those plants that they grow for hundreds of years? I'm one of those, but my big branch that I thought would stay with me is gone forever. But
Oh,
I'm
yeah, the
still me.
sequoias.
Bonsai, bonsai.
Bonsais. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Interesting.
And like, yeah,
Oh, yeah, the
uh,
ancients would talk about that, like, and in so many talks about, well, because this chart's like the essence of a person. And so they say, like, if you lop off a piece of wood, you have a piece of wood, and you lop off the corner, it's still a piece of wood, right? So as
yeah.
humans, like, we are our essence. And if you chop off an arm or a leg, we're still our essence there. It seeps in all around. And so, yeah, you can't really even stop the beauty. I think people with amputated limbs and stuff are glorious. I mean, I think
Of course.
you,
Yeah.
you know, the God, what was I was thinking of something. I forgot. Oh, I think artiness is beautiful. Oh, I know what it was. It's not so much how the person's body is shaped, but how they interact with it emotionally and conceptually. So there was a study I read that was saying that 75% of people are unhappy with something about their body, until they work through it consciously. So, like balding,
Oh,
it could be
yeah,
I have no hair. It could be that it could be a belly. It could be that I'm missing an arm. It could be that my nose is too big. Like there's literally a million things to hate about your body.
yeah,
And that the people who consciously work through that thing come to
yeah,
love their body. So maybe you have a big nose, but you're like, I rock my big schnoz and like I come from a long line of big
yeah,
schnozzes and like so then your nose all of a sudden becomes beautiful because of how you think about your nose, right?
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so that's one thing is that it's like if you have something you don't like, make an art project of making it beautiful in your mind, that kind
Right.
of thing. And then the second thing I want to say is like okay, so plainness versus costuming or artiness,
Oh,
right?
fun.
I
Yeah.
think artiness can like clowns. You can take a person and put a clown makeup on them, and they can be big, small. The clowns are not. It doesn't matter the size of a clown. We don't covet
No.
skinny clowns. They're big clowns,
Mm-mm.
but it's the colorfulness of the makeup and the color is very beautiful. Like peacocks are very
Yeah.
beautiful in their color, and you can have a chubby
Yeah.
peacock. You wouldn't even really think about that because what you're noticing is the colorful nature.
Oh, I love that so much. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree. Yeah, and there's also like if you think about the like Robert Blaschke talks about holographic aspects, right? So two planets take up the same amount of degree space as two planets in your natal chart, and it somehow resonates, or something like that. A holographic moment that explains the rest. I do believe that we're comprised of cells of our ancestors and that these cells have messages for us. And it could be that, those of us who carry more are carrying more messages. And so we can say, hey, whoever's not part of my gig can scoot, right? And let
Mm.
that go in case. Because I do think there are ways to like, Buddha stopped eating because he thought that was a spiritual path until he fell unconscious. And then the milkmaid Radha dropped some milk on his lips. And he went, that wasn't it. I'm not supposed to starve my way there. And
Mm.
then, Epictetus talks about, right, loving exquisite things, right? Or bordering on hedonism, right? And Rumi talks about the intoxication of love. And so, shoving yourself full of this beautiful life, right? There are so many ways to like not do it, right?
Mm.
We're designed to like, be boring farmer artist people, right? Dancing with each other into the late night and
Mhm.
going to sleep and getting up and doing it again. So I do think the arty thing is so beautiful, because then you can see what your brain is showing you. Like I feel like as humans we can tell ourselves, and tell yourself is wrong, we can fall into alignment with ourselves through these explorations, and through that alignment start to power our purpose and bring in the results that we're looking for and affect people the way we want to affect them. And so that that explication of like, well, who am I? If you're told by one set of people you're not, shouldn't, but you've got like all of this vista of, well, maybe I should, maybe I can. I just find that really exhilarating,
Mhm.
that there's more in there.
You're making me think of the telos, which is a telos is our express manifested thing, right? And the telos actually exist all around us. Like whatever one of the things that's most beautiful about you is all the art and colorfulness of your spirit, right? Like your hair is colored, you got your outfit all dialed in, black for Scorpio,
Yeah.
gold for Sag. Like you're just so beautiful, right? The thing is person's telos is all around their room, right? So it's interesting to see some people who don't have necessarily a more colorful temperament. Maybe they're very earthy or something, and they have a very clean office with just no color, right? To some people, that's what's beautiful, right? But
Right.
to me, like an office with
Right.
art all over it, it's just like, oh, like, so I think a person's telos
I love it.
or spirit splashed around can also be attractive, right?
Oh,
Isn't there a
I love
bird that
that.
does that like makes their house really attractive so that when the male bird comes in, it's a like a form of
I think there's either the Bowery bird or the lyre bird, but yeah, they use it to attract. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so I think we can use our surroundings to attract people. It's not just what our body is shaped like.
I agree. I agree. And then that talks to, like, I think I read 2 days ago that, and I don't know where I read it, so I'll have to check it out because maybe I made it up. That, like our brains are connecting even when we aren't physically in the same place.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, that's a wrap, all right, we're all together all the time anyway. No wonder, no wonder there are so many misunderstandings. And so I feel that way with the body, right? If we let ourselves contain ourselves and then let that come out, that's the process. That's what we want. And because we're encouraged to consume and rush, for those of us who don't rush, and stop for those of us who don't stop, there's just chaos. And inside of that chaos, we can find ourselves. And there's not a form you're going to arrive in, thank goodness, according to astrologers, that you're not going to be able to make sense of. It's
Hmm.
going to, the story will come out, you'll be able to navigate it.
Interesting. So be beautiful by letting your chart express itself, whatever that is. I mean, that's a really good lesson. If you're supposed to be a writer, write your book. And if you're supposed to be a painter, paint your painting. But
Yeah.
that is what makes you beautiful. All right, well, this is our time to stop, Lillian, but I have to tell you, you've healed my soul in many ways, and I really thank you so much for this time.
You too. And I almost came dressed as my clown face. So
Whoa.
we'll have to do a clown face podcast sometime.
Okay,
Uh,
okay.
yeah.
We'll have to make it a win-win because I don't because I know that you have a podcast too, so we'll have to figure out how we can keep working in win-wins. I do all these podcasts for free, so it's like
So do we. Yeah.
yeah, so it's just us working together, but we have so far we have three more topics that we didn't get to, so I'll
Oh,
have to.
yes.
All right.
I'm here. I'm here. All right. Have
Great.
a really good night in your body.
All right, you too. All right. Bye.